Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. In Indian Army's alarming revelations about the nefarious designs of Pakistan, alert air defense shot down Pakistani missiles and drones targeted at Amritsar's Golden Temple on May the 8th. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri to brief Parliament's Standing Committee on External Affairs on the current India-Pak foreign policy developments post-Operation Syndhur. US President Donald Trump to hold telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin on ending the Ukraine conflict, also plans to speak with Ukrainian President later. Iranian Foreign Minister reaffirms Tehran's unwavering stance on its right to enrich uranium, says Iran to keep enriching uranium with or without a deal. And in sports, Carlos Alcaraz routs rival Yannick Sinner to win Italian Open in Rome a week ahead of French Open. In a powerful testament to Indian Army's vigilance and strength, soldiers deployed along the international border in Amritsar shared critical updates on Operation Syndhur. Pakistan's nefarious designs were foiled by an ever-alert Indian Army and matchless air defense systems deployed in frontline areas. Indian soldiers have now revealed that they foiled infiltration attempt on May 8th and 9th night, highlighting the effectiveness of the Indian defense system. Another soldier said that the army was ready for retaliatory Pak strikes after India decimated the terror infrastructure in Pakistan on 7th of May. While it was predicted that Pakistan would retaliate and target air bases and military installations, but some kamikaze drones, surface-to-surface and air-to-surface missiles were launched directly at the Golden Temple. After not getting any success in causing damage to the air bases and military installations for about 3 days, Pakistan started targeting civilian areas. Golden Temple was one of them, which was attempted to be struck with kamikaze drones and rockets. All the air raid was intercepted and shot down with great precision. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri will brief the Standing Committee of Parliament on External Affairs on Monday on the current foreign policy developments regarding India and Pakistan. The Foreign Secretary will brief the Parliament panel headed by Congress Member of Parliament Shashi Tharoor on the latest. These developments were marked by India striking terrorist sites in Pakistan, followed by days of intense conflict between the two countries before they agreed to stop military action. The Foreign Secretary has regularly briefed the committee on a host of foreign affairs, including developments in India's neighbourhood like Bangladesh and in its ties with Canada. The Ministry of Defence said that Operation Syndhur marked a turning point in India's defence doctrine, demonstrating tri-services synergy, strategic depth and technological dominance in response to the Pahalgam terror attack. Operation Syndhur was conceived as a punitive and targeted campaign to dismantle the terror infrastructure across the line of control and deep inside Pakistan. With precision airstrikes on key targets like the Noor Khan Air Base and the Rahim Yar Khan Air Base, robust naval posturing through a carrier battle group and effective Army BSF coordination on the ground, India showcased seamless multi-domain warfare. Under the operation, India carried out precision strikes on terror infrastructure early on May 7th in response to the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack. The ministry went on to add that the operation was powered by integrated systems like IACCS and Akash missile and backed by major reforms. Chief of Defence Staff led DMA, integrated theatre commands, joint logistics nodes and real-time joint exercises like Prachand Prahar and Desert Hunt. In the aftermath of the operation, Pakistan initiated a series of retaliatory attacks targeting key Indian air bases and logistics infrastructure. These attempts, however, were effectively neutralized by India's comprehensive and multi-layered air defense architecture. Simultaneously, the Indian Army demonstrated its preparedness and effectiveness in both defensive and offensive roles. The Army's air defense units worked in tandem with the Air Force, deploying a wide array of systems, the ministry said, adding that these units were instrumental in countering waves of drones and loitering munitions launched by Pakistan. The ministry also highlighted the Indian Navy's role during the operation. The Navy's ability to establish uncontested control over the seas also validated its anti-missile and anti-aircraft defense capabilities in a complex threat environment. The anti-terrorist squad of North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh arrested a suspected Pakistani spy for allegedly working for Pakistan's intelligence agency and engaging in cross-border smuggling from Moradabad. According to UP ATS officials, credible information was received indicating that a man operating along the India-Pakistan border was involved in smuggling activities and was being supported by Pakistani intelligence operatives. Upon further investigation, anti-terrorism squad identified the suspect as Shahzad Wahab, a resident of Rampur district. The ATS said that Shahzad had travelled frequently to Pakistan over the past several years and used these trips to illegally transport goods, including cosmetics, spices, clothing and other items across the border. The officer added that Shahzad shared classified information with ISI agents and also facilitated financial transactions for Pakistani handlers operating in India. Moreover, Shahzad is suspected of recruiting individuals from UP, sending them to Pakistan under the pretext of smuggling or employment with the ultimate aim of assisting the ISI. Based on the collected evidence, the ATS registered an FIR at the ATS police station in Lucknow under relevant sections of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, including charges related to espionage and national security. He was presented before a competent court and further legal proceedings are underway. In a major breakthrough for security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, 2 suspected individuals were caught with weapons and explosives during a checkpoint operation in Shopian district. The suspects were nabbed by a team comprising the Special Operations Group Shopian, CRPF 178 Battalion and 34 Rashtriya Rifles. Following the recovery, an FIR was registered under the relevant sections of the law and an investigation is now in progress to find out more about the suspects and their intentions. This incident highlights the ongoing challenges faced by security agencies in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in areas of South Kashmir like that of Shopian, which have seen repeated attempts by terror groups to smuggle weapons or carry out attacks. Further, the Government of India has formed 7 multi-party delegations to present India's stance on Operation Syndhur and cross-border terrorism. Comprising leaders from various political parties, these delegations will visit key global nations. The delegations will depart on May 23 and 24th for a 10-day tour. Before their visits, they will be briefed in 2 phases by the Foreign Secretary at the Parliament House.
The all-party delegations formed by the Government of India to represent India's stance on Operation Syndhur and cross-border terrorism symbolizes unity under the message "One Mission, One Message, One Bharat." Their goal is to convey India's collective resolve against terrorism to key international partners.
बाहर डिप्लोमेटिक सफारती कोशिशें करना बहुत अच्छी बात है, यही है क्योंकि जंग का ज़माना चला गया, आज डिप्लोमेटिक मेजर्स की बात है, डिप्लोमेटिक इनिशिएटिव्स की बात है.
I appreciate all the MPs as unitedly they have raised their voice. They have told we are not representing the party, we are representing my country. And our Honorable Prime Minister, we thank our Honorable Prime Minister for forming such MP delegation to go to each and every country.
An all-party delegation led by BJP leader Baijan Panda will visit countries including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain and Algeria. Besides Baijan Panda, the delegation includes BJP MPs Nishikant Dubey, Phangnon Konyak, Rekha Sharma, AIMIM MP Asauddin Owaisi, Ghulam Nabi Azad, among others. The second all-party delegation led by BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad will visit the UK, France, Germany, the EU, Italy and Denmark. TDP MP Dr. Duggapati Purandaswari, Shiv Sena UBT MP Priyanka Chaturvedi, among others, will be part of the delegation. The third all-party delegation led by JDU MP Sanjay Kumar Jha will visit Indonesia, Malaysia, the Republic of Korea, Japan and Singapore. BJP MPs Aparajita Sarangi, Brijlal, Pradhan Barua, Hemang Joshi, AITC MP Yusuf Pathan and others will also be part of the delegation. The fourth all-party delegation led by Shiv Sena MP Shrikant Eknath Shinde will visit UAE, Liberia and the Democratic Republic of Congo and Sierra Leone. BJP MPs Basuri Swaraj, former MP SS Ahluwalia and others will also be part of this delegation. The fifth all-party delegation led by Congress leader Shashi Tharoor will visit the United States of America, Panama, Guyana, Brazil and Colombia. The delegation includes LJP MP Shambhavi Chaudhary, BJP MP Tejasvi Surya and others. The sixth all-party delegation led by DMK MP Ganimoi Karunanidhi will visit Spain, Greece, Slovenia, Latvia and Russia. The delegations include SP MP Rajiv Rai, NC MP Mia Altaf Ahmed, BJP MP Brijesh Chauta and others. The seventh all-party delegation led by NCP SCP MP Supriya Sule will visit Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia and South Africa. The delegation includes BJP MPs Rajiv Pratap Rudy, Anurag Singh Thakur, Congress MP Manish Tiwari and others. The leaders and members of the delegations have expressed their gratitude to the government for the opportunity to represent the nation globally and convey the message on fighting terrorism. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has imposed 11 tough conditions on Pakistan before releasing the next tranche of its $7 billion bailout package. While the IMF recently dispersed a second tranche of $1 billion under a $7 billion bailout package, it also imposed 11 stringent conditions. These conditions have further deepened Pakistan's economic and political challenges. Let's take a look at the list of these new conditions. Pakistan must pass a federal budget of Pakistani rupees of 17.6 trillion, which is approximately $63 billion for the fiscal year 2025-26 through Parliament by June 2025, with 1.07 trillion Pakistani rupees allocated for development expenditure. All 4 provinces must implement a new agricultural income tax law by June 2025. Pakistan must publish a governance action plan based on the IMF's governance diagnostic assessment to address weaknesses in governance. A long-term financial sector strategy must be developed for the post-2027 period, including regulatory and institutional reforms starting in 2028. Structural reforms must be implemented, including broadening the tax base, reducing subsidies and strengthening fiscal discipline. The IMF has demanded strict monitoring and transparency on the use of the loan, particularly to ensure that funds are not misused. Policies must be implemented for climate change and disaster preparedness under the $1.4 billion Resilience and Sustainability Facility. The IMF has advised reducing military spending and to increase investment in sectors such as education and health. Given the India-Pakistan tensions, the IMF warned that regional instability could derail economic reforms. Strict measures must be taken to prevent tax evasion and impose taxes on untapped sectors. Electricity subsidies must be reduced and privatization in the energy sector must be promoted. The Embassy of India in Portugal responded firmly to a protest organized by Pakistani demonstrators near its Chancery building, calling it a cowardly act. In a bold move, the Indian mission posted pictures of Operation Syndhur in retaliation. The pictures read, "Operation Syndhur is not over yet." Indian ambassador to Portugal, Puneet Roy Kundal, and other Indian diplomats stood proudly with these large banners of the operation as Pakistani protesters carried pictures of Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir. The Indian embassy also expressed gratitude to the government of Portugal and local police for ensuring the safety and security of the embassy. India reaffirmed that such provocations would not intimidate the nation and that its resolve against cross-border terrorism remains unshaken. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will embark on a 6-day visit to the Netherlands, Denmark and Germany beginning from Monday. During his visit, the minister is expected to meet the leadership of these three countries. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar will start his 6-day European countries visit from May 19th and will hold discussions on the entire gamut of bilateral relations and regional and global matters of mutual interest. Jaishankar's Germany visit aligns with Friedrich Merz' new role as Federal Chancellor, signalling continued commitment to India-Germany strategic partnership. During his visit, the minister is expected to highlight Pakistan's relentless support for cross-border terrorism. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. US President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut bill passes key panel to advance in the US Congress. Former US President Joe Biden diagnosed with aggressive form of prostate cancer. Wishes pour in for his fast recovery. And Sensex slips over 100 points and Nifty continues to trade around the 25,000 mark. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to some global updates now. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to host EU leaders in London on Monday in the most significant effort to reset ties since Britain left the EU in 2020 after 4 years of acrimonious talks. Starmer is trying to secure a deal that will include tangible benefits for Britons to offset the concessions it will need to make to Brussels. Britain wants the deal to include the use of faster e-gates for British travellers at the EU borders, reduced red tape on food trade and a new defence and security partnership that could allow British companies access to an EU loan scheme worth $167 billion. It also hopes to agree closer ties on energy and carbon markets, better cooperation on migration, smuggling gangs, the mutual recognition of certain professional qualifications, as well as access for touring artists and data sharing. US President Donald Trump will be speaking to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO leaders amid attempts to procure a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Trump hopes for a productive day leading to a ceasefire. Vice President J.D. Vance also met Zelensky to address the ongoing conflict and negotiations for peace in Rome. A report.
US President Donald Trump will speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin, followed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the NATO leaders to push for a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. Trump has been pressuring Putin and Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire in the 3-year-old conflict. Russia and Ukraine held direct negotiations in Istanbul last week, but ceasefire eluded the final outcome. Istanbul talks kept the door for further negotiations open as both the nations agreed to hold a new round of talks and a prisoner exchange involving 1,000 people from each of the side. Ukraine's President Zelensky met US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio after Pope Leo's inaugural Mass at the Vatican on Sunday. It was the first meeting between Zelensky and Vance since they clashed during talks at the White House in the month of February. Zelensky said the meeting was good and reaffirmed his eagerness to find a diplomatic breakthrough. Europe remains on edge due to the conflict. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, France's President Emmanuel Macron and Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk also spoke with Donald Trump after the Istanbul talk. Pointing out the catastrophic cost of the conflict to both the sides, the leaders underlined the need for an unconditional ceasefire. Since taking the office in the month of January, Trump has repeatedly stressed that he wants to see an end to the conflict and has recently backed calls for an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. Bureau Report, DD India.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated on Sunday that the country will continue enriching uranium with or without a deal with world powers. Despite ongoing nuclear negotiations, Araghchi emphasized Iran's stance, asserting that if the US seeks to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, a deal is possible. He also reaffirmed Iran's right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes, though it may accept temporary restrictions on levels and amounts. Currently, Iran enriches uranium to 60%, well above the 3.67% limit set by the 2015 nuclear deal, but far below the 90% required for nuclear weapons. Araghchi also expressed willingness to rebuild trust with European powers and emphasized that Iran is open to new talks with Europe, provided they approach the issue independently. Meanwhile, European powers are weighing whether to trigger the snapback mechanism, reinstating UN sanctions in response to Iran's nuclear activities. Canada has temporarily paused some counter-tariffs against the United States, but Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne on Sunday pushed back against claims that all the tariffs have been quietly lifted. This came as Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney and US Vice President J.D. Vance discussed trade in Rome after they attended the inauguration mass at the Vatican for Pope Leo XIV. Vance, in a brief statement, called it a casual meeting about their two nations' shared interests and goals, including fair trade policies. Carney's office said that Canada's counter-tariffs were calibrated to respond to the US while limiting economic harm to Canada. Carney, who won Canada's April 28th election on a pledge to stand up to US President Donald Trump, had slapped counter-tariffs on billions of dollars of imports from the US in response to their tariffs on Canadian goods. US President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut bill stalled for days by Republican infighting over spending cuts won approval from a key congressional committee to advance towards possible passage in the House of Representatives later this week. The action was a big win for Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson after hardline Republican conservatives on May 16th blocked the bill from clearing the House Budget Committee over a dispute involving spending cuts to the Medicaid healthcare program for lower-income Americans and the repeal of green energy tax credits. The bill passed in a 17-16 vote, with all Democrats voting against it. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones. His office confirmed that the diagnosis after he sought medical attention for urinary symptoms with a prostate nodule detected. The cancer is hormone sensitive, allowing for effective management, though hormone therapy isn't a cure. 82-year-old Biden's Gleason score of 9 indicates a serious case. US President Trump has expressed sadness, while Kamala Harris has also offered words of support. Meanwhile, former President Barack Obama said that Joe Biden will fight cancer with his trademark resolve and grace. The Bidens, deeply familiar with cancer, continue to review treatment options as they confront this new health challenge. A 150-foot-tall Mexican sailing ship that crashed into New York's iconic Brooklyn Bridge, snapping its masts and killing 2 crew members, is moored in Lower Manhattan as US safety officials launched a probe into the incident. 2 people were killed and more than a dozen others were injured after a Mexican Navy training ship struck the bottom of the Brooklyn Bridge. The ship, called Cuauhtemoc, was carrying 277 people when it lost power and struck the bridge. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said it was on a global goodwill tour and en route to Iceland at the time of the incident on Saturday night. The cause of the collision remains under investigation. And on to some business news now. Up first, news from the Indian benchmark stock indices. Well, they opened on a cautious note on Monday. The Sensex at the BSE slipped 141 points to trade at 82,189. And the Nifty at the National Stock Exchange continued to trade around the 25,000 mark a short while ago. Defence stocks continue to remain in focus after a Record move last week. A new week begins for the Lal Street with major developments over the weekend, including a credit rating downgrade of the US by the Moody's, which has sent the futures of the Dow Jones and other indices lower and gold prices higher. Gold prices jumped by 1,600 rupees or 1.7% to hit the day's high of 94,031 rupees per 10 grams on safe haven demand. Silver futures added 331 rupees or 0.4% to trade at 95,649 rupees per kilo. And on to sports news now. First updates from tennis. World number 3 Carlos Alcaraz lifted the Italian Open on Sunday after beating world number 1 and rival Yannick Sinner in straight sets in the final. Alcaraz won his 3rd title of the season just before the French Open, which kickstarts next week. The Spaniard claimed victory in his 4th final of the season and fired a warning message to the rest of the men's tour for Roland Garros, where he will defend the title. Sinner tops the world rankings, but his 26-match winning streak was ended by Alcaraz, also the man who had last beat him in last year's China Open final. Alcaraz is the only man to beat Sinner in a tour final since the start of 2024, when his Italian rival began his rise to the top of men's tennis and winning 3 Grand Slam titles. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.